The South African Civil Aviation Authority has accused Comair of failing to implement recommendations for safety measures. Hundreds of passengers were left stranded after Kulula and British Airways cancelled flights due to safety concerns about Comair planes. Heidi Giokos following the story for us. She joins us now live in studio. So let's start with why Comair flights were grounded.
So this happened. There was an incident in Feb, Shahan, as well as in March, where there was actual engine failure and the pilot needed to get into crisis mode and actually reroute the flight from Lanseria Airport to OR Tambo International Airport. So this happened in Feb as well as in March. It's about 4 to 6 weeks apart. And according to the Civil Aviation Authority, this should not happen. So if you have one incident, you know, it's an aeroplane, there are technical issues. Sometimes there are issues that do arise, but it should be dealt with immediately and it should not be engine failure. And because you've had 2 of these incidents happen within 4 weeks apart of each other, the Civil Aviation Authority realized that there's actually a safety concern. So what the Civil Aviation Authority has found is that there are 3 findings on level 1 and 1 finding on level 2. Now everybody's asking, what is level 1, what is level 2? Level 1 shows that there is an immediate safety risk that is at play here, and this is why there was that indefinite suspension of all Comair aircraft. Level 2, it's also a safety concern. We don't know the exact details thereof, but when you ask the Civil Aviation Authority, they say it's got to do with safety as well and making sure that the aircraft takes off safely but also lands safely. The level 2 can be resolved within 7 days. However, level 1, all those 3 findings, only 1 has been resolved, and that poses an immediate risk. And the Civil Aviation Authority says if any Comair aircraft had to take off now, they are not convinced that it would land safely. So this is why, rather be safe than sorry, and the Civil Aviation Authority has now put the suspension on their operations.
Yeah. So what's the latest from the Civil Aviation Authority on the way forward? And how do the inspections happen to actually make sure that all of the Comair aircraft are up to standard?
So basically it's up to every operator. So every aircraft or every airline has their own inspectors, their own operators that make sure that before they fly, every single box is ticked and all is checked so that they can go they can fly. However, you have the Civil Aviation Authority that comes in now when there is an immediate safety risk here. So thousands and thousands of papers and documents have been given to the Civil Aviation Authority. That's why they were able to clear 1 of the findings on level 1. However, the Civil Aviation Authority is not yet satisfied and does not feel comfortable with allowing Comair to resume its operations, and this is why they required further documentation. And this is why yesterday they indicated that there's an indefinite suspension on operations until they are satisfied. They went through further documentation. They were still not satisfied, and today they had asked Comair again for further documentation. The inspectors are still going through that, and this is why Comair is unable to resume its Kulula and British Airways flights. But I think let's get more clarity from the Civil Aviation Authority.
What happened is that following the visit that we paid Comair, following a spate of safety occurrences, which was on the 7th of March, we sent a team of inspectors to look at how things are going with the operations. This follows the incidences that took place in very close proximity to each other. And as a result of that, the audit itself, 10th of March, and thereafter the team compiled, in which case on Friday we called in the operator just to give them the report back. We also took them through the findings themselves, also afforded them an opportunity for them to respond. So on Saturday, when they could not set the requirements that we had issued to them, we were to a 24-hour precautionary suspension.
So it's been a very frustrating process for passengers, hasn't it?
It definitely has, Shahan, and I think the main concern here is that passengers feel as though there was no clear and proper communication from Comair. People would arrive at the airports, they would check in, and they would be taken to the boarding gates only to be told the flight is not going to happen. You had the same situation happening today after flights were cancelled indefinitely yesterday. People rocking up at the airport and then only to find not one single Comair staff member there to assist them. So the big problem here is communication. The big problem here is what now and whether or not they're going to be able to get a refund as quickly as possible to get onto other flights. We managed to speak to 2 passengers who rocked up at the airport today. Let's listen to what they had to say.
I flew all the way from Toronto to be in Victoria Falls for my father's 70th birthday. And unfortunately, we got here and we're told the flight is cancelled. We were booking for the next day. The next day came, we checked out of the hotel. Only the flight got suspended. No communication then, except that, you know, everyone's on a hard, it's a hard thing, I understand, for the ground staff, but this is the real world impact of these flights being cancelled, is that, you know, I'm not going to be able to see my father for his 70th birthday, and the communication has not been the best, and the impact means that I'm out of pocket, and I'm now booking with another airline just to get to the neighboring country, just to be able to get to my father's destination.
I only got an SMS when I got here, around about 11, when I was about to check in. I traveled almost 200 kilometers. Now I tried to call them. There is no one who's picking up the calls. There's no one here to explain to us, to take responsibility what is happening with us. Now I'm stranded. I've got to be in a meeting at 5. So I'm here. My wife is sitting there. So I don't know what to do.
He's clearly missed the meeting. So what is Comair saying about all of this?
So we've actually reached out to Comair. We've been trying to get them on camera the whole day, but they have been in meeting after meeting, and they've indicated to us that there is no further update. They've also tweeted on their Kalula Twitter page that all flights for tomorrow will be suspended, and I think this is pending whether or not the Civil Aviation Authority will be able to lift that suspension and is satisfied with the documentation handed over. But for now, flights have remained suspended, and passengers are encouraged not to go to the airport because Kalula and British Airways are not flying until the Civil Aviation Authority issues that go-ahead.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Appreciate the update. Heidi Giokos bringing that story for us. Still to come.